Good evening, councillors, good evening, officers, and those who may be watching at home. Welcome to this special meeting of Corangamite Shire Council to deal with a couple of items around the electoral boundaries that are currently under consideration, as well as the appointment of a Chief Executive Officer. I'd like to begin with the prayer. We ask for guidance and blessing on this council. May the true needs and well-being of our communities be our concern. Help us, who serve as leaders, to remember that all our decisions are made in the best interests of the people, culture and the environment of Corangamite Shire. Acknowledgement of country. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land around Corangamite Shire, the Eastern Maar and Wadawurrung people. We pay our respects to all Aboriginal elders and peoples past, present and emerging. Mr CEO, we have no apologies.
No apologies, Madam Mayor.
Nor declarations of conflict of interest?
No declarations.
Thank you. We also have no deputations and presentations, so I'll move straight into the officer's report. Item 9.1, the Corangamite Shire Electoral Structure Review, response submission, and I'll ask Mr Plozza, Executive Services and Governance Coordinator, to introduce this item, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. As Council will know, the Minister for Local Government has appointed an electoral advisory panel to review the ward structure used by Corangamite Shire Council. As a result of legislative changes, the current mixed system used to elect Corangamite's council is no longer compliant and a new ward structure is required. The review of Corangamite's structure began on 30th of January and will conclude with a recommendation to the Minister to be delivered in May. The panel initially called for preliminary submissions. Council made a submission in this first window calling for a single member ward system with 7 councillors. Many community members also made submissions to the panel, with the vast majority of them advocating for some kind of ward system. After considering these submissions, the panel released a preliminary report with 3 potential structures for community feedback. These are an unsubdivided structure of 7 councillors, a 4-ward structure with 2 councillors each, or a single member ward structure of 7 councillors. The panel is now calling for response submissions, with submissions closing on the 12th of April. Council should determine which model to advocate for in its response submission. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Plozza. Councillors, there is a report presented to you for your consideration which outlines the 3 options that the panel has given to Council, and we have done some amendments, particularly around the boundaries on those options. Would someone like to move the recommendation, and in doing so to indicate their preferred model? Councillor Kennedy, can I just ask you to outline your preferred model so we can find a seconder, please?
I prefer Model 3.
Thank you. Is there someone who will support Councillor Kennedy's Model 3 option? Thank you, Councillor Beard. Councillor Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, Model 3 is my preferred option. I believe the ward structure in Corangamite has served our communities very effectively over many local government terms. We are a high-performing council, which has been evidenced by our high LG performance indicators over several terms of council. And I note in the VEC remarks that they appear concerned by our level of uncontested elections in some wards, but I don't believe that has prevented new candidates from stepping forward. After each general election, we have new councillors at our table. This council, there were 5 new faces. I think the previous council had 4 new faces, so it certainly hasn't affected any diversity in the councillors that are sitting at the table for a term. I believe the ward structure with 7 councillors has been very good for Corangamite, and that's the feedback I'm getting from people in the community that I've spoken to and who have approached me about this change. The ward councillors, I think, are more closely connected with their communities and have a deeper knowledge of their communities and their aspirations, and I believe this has led to many positive outcomes in our shire. I don't think this effectiveness can be achieved by an unstructured model, which is why I think the system of 7 councillors, 1 per ward, is something that we need to remain with because it's working so well in Corangamite. We do have a lot of diversity in our towns, in our industry and in community need, and our ward structure is addressing that in a way that I think I've got myself confused here. I think with the way our wards are currently structured, we've sort of collected together communities of common interest, industry and key infrastructure that's related to those communities, and I think that again is working well. And I think that we just need to stay as close to that model as possible. And Model 3 is offering us that, but it does need a little bit of tweaking, I believe. We need further advocacy to bring Noorat and Terang into the same ward, preferably Glen Ormiston, but I don't think that's going to meet the tolerances that are required. Noorat and Terang just really do work more or less as a single community, so they would be far better served if they are in a single ward, and that's something we need to advocate further on. So I do support the recommendation that we make a submission to the Electoral Representation Advisory Panel, and hopefully we can work with the VEC to tweak the ward boundaries a little bit to get a better outcome for our communities.
Thank you, Councillor Kennedy. Councillor Beard.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. First and foremost, I completely back up and agree everything that my fellow councillor has just mentioned, and agree with the preferred model of number 3. I want to begin by thanking Mr Plozza for the work and effort he's put in, and it was acknowledged earlier that in such a short time from when we got the responses back from the VEC following the first round of submissions been going into where we've got to now. So I do want to acknowledge that work. Thank you, Mr Plozza. I think Model 3 gives us the best and fairest way of representing our ratepayers. I have to admit, going back to 1994, and I obviously wasn't around on council then, but there's still that heaviness that lingers from our communities around that amalgamation time, and some communities do feel like they lost their identity when there was 3 local shires, and as well as 3 and parts of 3 other shires that was amalgamated into Corangamite. And when you start feeling like you've lost that, you provide that division, and it sort of opens slather, that's when people feel like they lose their identity. And I still think that lingers somewhat, whereas with a ward representation, people still feel cared about and not forgotten about. And I can't help but back my community, and it was only last night at a Progress in Cobden meeting I heard loud and clear from them that they wanted the preferred option that we've gone with, which is that single wards. So feeling like I'm doing my job in representing my community, that's why I've certainly backed this option. I also want to thank the submitters that helped us through the first phase of this, I guess, in taking the time and effort to put it into writing. And I guess ultimately they backed what we were wanting out in that outcome as well, and it worked. So we often think it's a waste of time putting in submissions, but clearly it wasn't. I think the Electoral Commission certainly appreciated the fact that the community cared enough to go out of their way to provide a submission. Otherwise, I think this proposal may have not got over the line in terms of even being an option from what we've seen happening in previous councils. So I think whatever has happened in the past, we need to keep going. I certainly encourage our residents to do the same thing all over again. There's 2 more opportunities. Once we've obviously got our formal submission, same thing can go from our community members, get behind us again and put in their preferred, what they'd prefer to see going forward. And then obviously there's the, they can register then also on the website to be part of the online panel hearing, which is a bit further into April, which I no doubt, Mayor, you'll talk a bit more to that. But I can't help stress enough that it has worked. We have been heard, and we just got to keep the momentum going on this, because that's how much we care about this system. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Councillor Hickey.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. People I'm speaking to have certainly supported the single council wards, because there's a general feeling that people within those wards do understand the needs and the specific needs of that area. So yes, I need to support that. It also brings some of the smaller communities to the table. Sometimes they might feel that it's not fair at a table. By having subdivisions, it certainly means that everybody gets a chance to have a say and is equally represented at the council table. And the third thing I'd encourage people to get a submission response into the VEC by April 12th, supporting what they believe. And if they believe that the single council award is the best, as we do around the table, I'd certainly encourage them to make sure that they have their say, and I can certainly help them with any websites they need to go to supply that submission. So thanks, that's what I've got to say.
Thanks, Councillor Hickey. Councillors, further comments? Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you. I've been out and about and talking to other people, and I do believe that local government, councils, is local community government, and we get out and talk to the local community more than any other form of government, and that's what shires are set up to do. And in Corangamite, with the diversity we have across the shire from north to south, it's totally different. Totally different roles and totally different, geographically diverse. So we need those individual councillors to represent our areas. I've just been, over the last 3 days, been talking to 3 other councillors, people from different councils, and they all wish they had our method of representation. They said they're from small communities on the fringes of the respective shires, and they said we get no representation at all. We hear nothing from anyone, and as you know, they all want to push for ward structure again to get representation across their shires. So we have it, and we'd like to maintain it and use it to represent our people and our communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. Councillors, is your other Councillor Macon? Thank you.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. I don't have much further to add, but I strongly support everything my previous councillors have all said. Yeah, if it's not broke, don't fix it, don't change it. The system that we've got works for us. We know our communities, we know what they want. They can get hold of us quite easily and tell us what their needs are. We didn't ask for this review to happen. I understand it had to happen, but we didn't ask for it, and but yet it is costing us some money to do this review, which is not great when we haven't asked for it to happen. But I totally agree with everyone else has said. I encourage lots of people to get online and make a submission. We did have 21 before. If we could get more than that, that would be fantastic. Just to support what we're putting forward today would be fantastic, and just to know that you are very happy with what we are putting forward, that would be great. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Macon. Councillor
Looking at me.
Vogels.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yep, I'm fully supportive of the decision to go with Model 3. I think in a broader sense, we still represent the whole Shire, and we're still committed to represent the whole Shire, but down on a more micro sort of level, I think sort of the diversity across the ward that you represent is a full diversity still, and I think that sort of gives you a focal point, and a focal point for the community, someone to deal with and talk to, so to see the same person more often than not. But we are available across the whole Shire still. It's not just we concentrated into our wards. And I think without a ward system and an open ward, you'll get more councillors will find a niche group to deal with rather than a diverse group that's across their ward. So I think it works much better the way it is, and I think if open wards gets more down to politics, which is never good in local government.
Thank you, Councillor Vogels. Councillors, if there's nothing further. Before I do put that to the vote, I totally agree with all the points of view that have been raised this evening. Councillors are very much connected to their communities, and as a result of that, the communities become more connected to the operations of council. And I think it's that connection where we meet in the supermarket or down in the post office or wherever, you know, you're always accessible, but yet, you know, when we do get together and we're looking at Shire-wide issues, we take a Shire-wide view. So it is just about being accessible to your community, and I think that our existing ward system, as Councillor Macon mentioned, certainly has served Corangamite well, and under the new Act we do have to change to a new system with equal number of councillors in the wards, and I think that the 7 single-member wards is the way to go. As has been mentioned, submissions from the public can be made up till 5 p.m. on the 12th of April. That's on the VEC website, vec.vic.gov.au. So if you would like to make a submission, whether it's option 1, 2 or 3, I'm sure the VEC would be very happy to hear from you. And also if you want to take the opportunity of presenting to the panel hearing, it is on the 18th of April at 2 p.m. And again, you need to register on the VEC website. Some people making submissions last time did mention that it was a little bit difficult to navigate. So if anyone in the public would like some assistance in lodging a submission, as I say, for any of the 3 options, our governance team here at the council offices would be more than happy to help. So councillors, I'll put that to a vote. All in favour? That's carried. Now councillors, the next item of business we're dealing with is confidential, so we will move into confidential shortly. We have nobody with us this evening for open forum, so I will ask someone to move to suspend standing orders. Thank you, Councillor Macon, seconded Councillor Cole. All in favour? That's carried. And on that note, I will thank councillors, thank officers here this evening, and also those who may be at home watching our broadcast. Thank you.